Hi, welcome to, I'm not even sure what this video series is. It is going to be a video series based on emotional addiction and based on really coming into awareness of the emotional patterns that are created by everything in our surroundings. And if you can hear weird noises, my dogs are on the ground and they're shaking and scratching and doing dog things. So if you hear weird sounds, it's going to be them. So all the birds outside. So I really wanted to do this video series starting the new year, 2020. It's a new decade. It's a brand new year. It's the 1st of January. And I have been working with these addiction patterns for a long time inside of myself and really bringing myself into awareness of the addiction patterns. And I wanted to share that because the addiction to all my emotional patterns has been the catalyst for most of my depression and most of my panic attacks and most of my anxiety and pretty much every emotional crappy experience I think I've had is being addicted to it. And the way I've come through that addiction is by creating an awareness, a really strong, deep awareness of the patterns that I have going around and around and around in my head. And so I wanted to start with the feeling. So for me, I have such a strong feeling that sits right up in my chest, and it's a real intense tightness and it's a pressure. And if I do not take the time to sit in awareness of it, it actually moves up into my head and it creates vertigo and it creates this intense spinning in my space. And sometimes I need to go and lie down to stop the world spinning and to bring my energy back into myself. And so what I have been doing, which has really shifted a lot of the deep dark depression. So there's still kind of that high energy anxious feeling I can still feel sometimes. But what I have shifted is that really deep, dark, doomiest pit of despair, of nothingness, except I kind of look at it as the bog. It's just this horrible, stenchy space that sometimes I have found myself in quite a lot over the last probably 25 years, since I was about 15, I guess. I have really sat in this space, and it's only been recently that I've come out the other side of it. And part of that is through awareness, part of that is through tapping into Is that you, honey? Bailey? Tapping into my energy shifted. I heard something and my energy's just shifted. Tapping into that darkness has been one of the hardest things I've had to do because it has been so dominant in my space, and awareness is not the only step. I have been aware of this darkness and the depression and the panic and the anxiety for years. I for years. I even knew in my early 20s I had a problem because I was having panic attacks. And the actual real conscious awareness started from about the age of 30 when I opened the door, and what I've realized is the awareness is not the only part of moving through it. For me, it has been a process of awareness, becoming aware of those parts of me that are so deeply hurt and that are so deeply entrenched in a negative thought spiral, and then creating a space to acknowledge all of those different parts of me and taking time to acknowledge them. For me, what I realized was that every part of my being, it wanted to be acknowledged. It wants to be accepted. And that was my next step, was accepting that these parts are part of who I am. It's part of my makeup. It's how I was raised. It's the environment I was in with my mum and my dad at different times, and the rest of my family. And it is coming into acceptance that this is who I am, and it is not going anywhere. And so then from the acceptance, I moved into this space of loving these parts of me for being here, because they are protecting me on such a monumental level. They are keeping me safe. They are keeping me where they feel I need to be, so I do not get hurt anymore. And my brain's logic is, if I feel the worst I can possibly feel, then there's nothing anybody could do to me to make me feel any worse than I already do. And that was always my brain's logic. And when I realized that, I still didn't do anything about it. I had awareness of it, and I had gone through the process of acknowledging it, and I accepted it, and I loved it. However, none of that made it go away. None of that magically brought me out of depression. I did a lot of tapping on it. I did 2 different tapping techniques, and that didn't get me out of my depression. It didn't magically take me out. The angels did not sing in harmony because I'd all of a sudden started tapping on my head, or tapping under my eye, or tapping on my collarbone. None of that worked. So then I shut the door and decided I'd had enough. I had had enough of the spiritual journey. I had enough of being awake. I had enough of being aware. I had enough of my connection. I'd had enough of consciousness. I had had enough of all of it. And I shut the door and kind of went unconscious again. And while I didn't go into mainstream as much, I stopped doing the work on myself. I stopped doing everything. And then I went through probably the worst experience of my life. And that started 5 years ago, and really only stopped a couple of months ago. And all through that, I was still stuck in the depression. I was still stuck in the panic attacks. I was still stuck in the anxiety. I was still stuck in that cycle of viciousness. That is my brain on a daily basis, because it had, because of what happened and because of the trauma that I went through, it created this negative spiral of thoughts to protect me, to keep me safe, to keep me, to save me from feeling worse than I already potentially could. It took me right down as far as I could go. I do not think I could even ever emotionally go lower than what I went. And so after being in that pit for about 5 years, it was only a couple of months ago that I decided enough was enough and I could not live in the pit anymore. And there had to be a better way. There had to be another way. There had to be a different way other than just the process of acceptance and acknowledgement and love. They're all big things. They were all big part of it. However, it did not magically make it all go away for me. The affirmations didn't help. The mantras didn't help. Meditating didn't help. It did not magically make it all go away. What I realized was a lot of it was a distraction. It was, if I do all of this stuff outside of myself, like the tapping and the mantras and the meditating and I watch all the shows and I read all the books, then maybe that will magically fix what is inside of me. It didn't help and it didn't work. So what has worked for me personally is breathing into the pain. So what I realized was that if I feel the hurt and then I go to my brain and I try and find the reason for the hurt, what created it, what event in my past created this, or what is it in me creating this, which is a mantra that I've had a lot over the years, I realized that all of that thought process was a distraction. It was taking me from here, it was taking me from here, it was taking me from my body up to my head. And anytime I disappeared up into my head, it was taking me away from me. So not that long ago, I shifted things around and instead I've started breathing into the pain. I'm breathing into my body. I am breathing into the parts of me that are so traumatized by me disappearing. So I stopped and I had to get up and walk away because my daughter screamed about something that she was going through, and I wanted to check to make sure it wasn't a spider or a snake or something that had fallen on her head. It was not any of those things. And so that's why there was a change in the editing. I edited me walking out the door, so you know what that was. Because I see that happen a lot in people's videos and I think, what did they cut out of their video that they did not want me to see? So, in this process of breathing into myself and really, really, really seeing how much I did not want to be in the pain, how much I use tapping to distract myself sometimes. Sometimes it's useful, and I created my own tapping technique because it's really useful, and I will share that in another video. So for me, it has been breathing into the pain, realizing how much I want to get out of the pain, realizing how many times I sit and I think about the pain and I think about where the pain came from and I think about why it was there, and then I run away from the pain. So my process at the moment, which I'm going to be sharing a lot about all the different ways this works, is the first step. When I feel anything anywhere in my body, I stop and I breathe into it. And the thought in my head that I am creating myself, I'm consciously creating the thought in my head that says, I embody this feeling. I am this feeling. And I embody this feeling. I am being this feeling. And that one technique has done enough to shift me out of the deepest, darkest, dreariest, soul-destroying depression I have ever been in. And I've been in a few over the years, but this one was the worst. This one has definitely been the worst. This one triggered all sorts of control patterns. So for me, this one technique has helped immensely, and I really, really, really wanted to share it. So that's my one technique that I'm starting with, and my focus is around the addictions to the emotional space. And I have created a page. I have a page. I actually have two. I have a page and a group. The page is, you can find it on Facebook. It's called Love Creates Freedom. And you can also find a group that I am creating for people who really, really, really want to be a part of a community of people who are really, truly doing the work. Really doing the work. Really owning their emotional state, owning their emotional changes, embodying who they are, really being who they are in all the hurt and all the pain and all the sadness, because that is where we all are. And my intention with the group is for all of us to move as a collective into the happiness and the joy and the love, and that will come. It will come. It all comes when you focus on it. However, for some of us, it has been a lot harder to get there, and I want to help support the people that are finding it really hard. And there are two places. That is the Love Creates Freedom, and then the Sacred Journeys Together. The Sacred Journeys Together is going to be a group on Facebook of a community. It's going to be a closed group of community, those of us that really want support doing the work. So thank you for watching this video. I will create another one tomorrow, I hope. I intend on doing one every day this year, so we shall see how that goes. Thank you for watching.